Hi everyone, and welcome to Side Quest 21 of High Scores, High Stakes, the podcast that was always picked last in podcast PE classes. I'm your host as always,
Oh,
Mr. Luvva Luvva, and with me are my co-hosts.
yeah, still here. How you doing, lover? You alright?
Mm-hmm. I'm good. I'm
Speak
good.
for
Not even
yourself. We
sure.
picked last.
I'm not even sure what that even means, but here's me licking his wounds in the corner. It's Tomahawk. How are we doing?
He's still going on about it. He's still going on about it. And I know how it feels,
Eh,
Tomahawk, to
It
have a
is what
cup.
it is. This is living rent free in my head at the minute, guys. But side quests, let's do that instead. Let's not wallow in the misery that is season 3.
I mean, it could be worse. You could have won 8 challenges across an entire season
I never heard the end of it. I know it's wonderful things.
and not finished in the top 2.
Boo earns.
I think it's a disgrace. I think we need to get an independent
I
body
demand a
set up.
recount. Stop the count.
Right, we've heard enough of Tom's belly aching in group chat today. Let's talk about what High Scores High Stakes is. High Scores High Stakes is usually 4 friends playing against each other in PlayStation gaming challenges. Every week we pick a new game, every week a new challenge, and we compete with one another in a league table. That's what it usually is. But our regular season ended last week, and that means we are now in our side quest. So our side quest series is basically where we talk about all things gaming, and every week is basically a new show. So this week's side quest is a special one. It's a big one. It's the one I've been looking forward to the most. It is, of course, our PlayStation 1 draft.
Drafty boy.
Basically, what we're going to do is we are going to, well, use a draft system, and we are going to compile a list of 5 games each, and we'll see who has the best list of games by the end of the episode. And what we'll do when we're done is we will upload the lists to social medias to allow our listeners to vote, as well as voting down below in the question of the week. But before we get into our PlayStation 1 draft, Tomahawk, Cardinal, please tell me, what are you playing?
Ooh. Oh, I'm gonna go first. Okay, I've been playing Final Fantasy VII like a nerd.
Like a cardinal.
I love it. This is the first time I've ever played a Final Fantasy game and actually had any information retained. Really, really enjoying it. I'm about halfway through chapter 8. We were just talking off record about this. Game looks beautiful, has its flaws, but it's making me think I'm going to probably get Rebirth when it comes to PlayStation Plus in 4 years' time.
I cannot believe Tomahawk is playing Final Fantasy VII.
It is incredible things to see. So it is. And not only is he
Broaden
playing
horizons.
but he's absolutely caning his way through that story.
He is chugging through it like an absolute
Especially when it got to moments where you're in like the slums or you're in the other when you're in the other slums, I suppose. Here's me thinking you could just go do the main story. It's like, no, you need to go do all the random side stories and all the re-side missions. Now I know what Luvva felt like a couple of weeks ago when he said he spent so much time looking for this wee girl's cats. Turns out you can't skip that. You just have to plod along and do them.
You gotta find the cats.
You have to find them, mate. They're her friends.
But it's not integral to the story, is the point.
It is.
And Cloud doesn't really want to do it.
You won't believe what happens.
Seth Roth takes on the that form. He's like, you never found me in the slums.
You do realise that you can go back to that wee girl and talk to her again, and she basically tells you where they are, yeah?
I'm never going back. Let's not kid ourselves.
So Final Fantasy VII, what a game it is. What a game it is. So Cardinal, tell me, what are you playing?
Ooh, shivers. Well, let me tell you, lads, it's been, checking my notes, 89 days since the release of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and it still hasn't got a discount. 89 days. Square, sorry. Still waiting. So in the meantime, what have I been playing? I've been looking at FMV games. There was a big sale on PlayStation Plus, so I downloaded a game called Immortality, where you are trying to discover what happened to a missing actress through
Ooh.
the cuttings of footage from 3 movies that were never released. And I downloaded it, bought it, and there is absolutely zero introduction or tutorial. You're just, here's a lot of cuttings from a movie. And like,
Okay.
if I didn't read the synopsis of the game, I would have no idea what I'm doing. But it's very nice. It's very well acted. It's fun.
Something different. It's not a life simulator, at least anyway. So that's something.
This is a palate cleanser after about 2 weeks of flat out GTA.
That's it. That makes perfect sense.
As long as there's no maps involved.
0 maps. I can't believe it.
It's not
And
worth
speaking
playing.
of shockers, Luvva, what are you playing?
I have been playing a couple of games. The first one is Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Good heavens.
I have also been playing it. I am nowhere near as far as Tom at all. I've literally got to the part where you break into Jessie's house and steal her dad's ID card. That's where I am.
Can't keep your hands away from Jesse's stuff.
Her dad's card. But yeah, everything Tom said, yeah, it's a great game. It's absolutely great. The side quests are quite something, but the main story quest is unbelievably good. Unbelievably good, and it moves at a fair clip as well. Above that, I have been playing Dance of the Necro Dancer. Crypt of the Necro Dancer, sorry. Yeah.
Ooh.
I have had that game
Very nice.
for a very, very, very long time. Never really got into it until this week. It is the hardest game I think I have ever played.
It's like a rhythm slasher kind of, or what is it? Dungeon.
Yeah, so it's basically a dungeon crawling roguelike, top down 2D, but everything works on the beat. So you have to time your movements. The enemies move on the beat.
That's cool.
They attack on a beat. Obviously, the more of the beat you stay on, the higher your multiplier gets, but doesn't increase your score. It increases the amount of gold that all these enemies drop. But yeah, no, it's a great game. There's nothing more annoying when you're flying through a level of it and you drop off the beat, and then everything just goes back to normal.
Does this like drop a multiplier and everything slows down?
Yeah, and
sort of
when you're working on the beat, the whole sort of visual design changes where the ground will flash like a disco, and then once you lose that, then yeah. But it's a great game. It is so hard, but it's great. Absolutely loving it. The music is, I think it's unreal. It's really simple. It's a simple game. Like, it's just I think it's brilliant. It's just really addictive. Hard as all heck, but it's not one of those where you get frustrated because you know it's your fault when you die. And it loads instantly, so let's retry again. And you can attack the shopkeeper, who will pummel you if you do so. And refuse to sell you stuff. But yeah,
very good.
Crypt of the Necrodancer, really, really good. I think it's on sale at the minute as well.
It looks gorgeous. I've just pulled it up on the PlayStation Store just to have a look at a few screen grabs there. Very nice. You're not playing this because of a certain other podcast talking about this game, are you?
I did listen to Discount Pod talking about rhythm, and I was like, don't know what, I have that, and I haven't really played it, so let's download it and give it a go. But yeah, no, it's absolutely fantastic.
Cool.
It's a brilliant game. But yeah, I think that's it for what we've all been playing this week, which means it is time to get into the main course, our PlayStation 1 draft. So let's get there now. So, our PlayStation 1 draft, gentlemen, here's how it's going to work. We are going to compile a list of 5 PlayStation 1 games, and we are going to do that in a draft system. So, the draft system that we have chosen to use for the purposes of this episode is a snake draft, which basically means we have been randomly assigned when our picks are going to be. That order is Cardinal's going to pick first in round 1. Tom's going to pick second. And then I'm going to pick third. And then for round 2, that order gets reversed. And we'll just keep on reversing it until we get our 5 picks done. Obviously, it's a draft. So once a game gets picked by one of us, it cannot be picked by any other person. So
Makes sense.
Once it's out, it's out.
yeah, there's no criteria to these games. These games are just what we think are the best games on PlayStation 1. Well, I have a list of the 5 best games on PlayStation 1, but I know for a fact by the time my pick in round 1 comes, 2 of them will be gone and I'll need to dip into my substitutions. I don't know about you. I've got a hefty list of games right here and I'm ready to go. The question is,
I'm not. We all know that I never had a PlayStation 1 growing up, so this is going to prove quite difficult for me.
Tom hasn't even heard of the PlayStation 1.
What is a 1?
Oh, dear.
I'm going to find this tricky because I did have a PlayStation 1, so I don't know what you're going to pick and what you're going to knock out of mine, and I don't know what I'm going to knock out of your list, but let's roll with it. And
yeah, let us get down to business. So this is round 1, and what we'll do at the end of every round, we'll recap what everyone has picked, and we'll let the fun begin. So let us begin round 1. Cardinal Smith, what is your first pick of round 1 of the PlayStation Draft?
drum roll. This is shocking stuff now. But my first PS1 draft pick is Resident. No, it's not. It's Final Fantasy VII.
Shock horror.
Shock
Not
horror.
surprised at all.
The original, the OG. Now, this was the first Final Fantasy. It came out on the PlayStation. It was an exclusive at the time for a while, and I got it from cheap. My brother got it, brought it to the house, and it turns out the end of disc 1, there's 3 discs, was scratched, and you couldn't progress. So I had to.
Oh no!
That was quite a lot of time sank into that. But it was like the first. There's too much for me to say about it, but essentially, I ran an online forum for helping guide people if they had problems, and I also had friends at school pay me where I'd borrow their memory cards and I'd level up like 10 levels, and I'd spend all night just on the grinding for them.
No way.
That is
Thanks,
Cardinal Smith,
Andrew,
the
if you're
XP
listening.
farmer.
Yeah, there's a business out there back in the day. Anyway, I loved it, and recently at work, there's a guy on my team who loves it as well, but he's been almost out knowledging me one night at our Christmas do, talking about random towns I've forgotten the names of and things. But it's amazing. It's great. I'm glad it's been remade, but
You get people
change
like me
things.
getting to enjoy it.
Yeah, that's my first pick. I talked too long. Sorry.
Okay, cool. So I think that's going to take me to my pick. I have a funny one because I'm going to go with, it's either think with my head or think with my heart. I'm going to think with my head on this one, and I'm going to go with a game that we have discussed many times on the podcast. We have a dedicated Game of the Month episode to this game. It's Metal Gear Solid 1.
Boom.
Without a shadow of a doubt. It's just one of those games that has left such a lasting impression in my whole world, my whole life. Perfect. Absolutely perfect game. And I wanted to get it in early in case Luvva or even yourself, Cardinal, chose it. So
It was second
I
on
think
my
there's
list.
not there's not enough. I don't have enough time to say it. If you want to listen to our thoughts, go to the episode.
That's it. That's it. We spoke about it for 2 hours, over 2 hours in the Game of the Month episode. So we did. Funnily enough, I knew that Final Fantasy VII and Metal Gear Solid were going to get picked in the first round.
Pretty early doors.
So yeah. So this now leaves me in a conundrum because I would have picked both of those games because they are superb games. And when you think of the PlayStation, if you pick 100 people, what's the first game that comes to your head when you think of the PlayStation 1? I think you'd probably have 50-50 split between Metal Gear Solid and Final Fantasy VII. So this gives me a conundrum. What's going to be my first pick? And my first pick is going to be a tactical one. A tactical one. I'm going to take a game off the cards that I know for a fact Cardinal wants. And I am going to go with Gran Turismo 2.
Oh, that's literally Tom's picked second on my list, and you've picked third on my list.
I did. Gran Turismo 2. I remember when that game came out, it was like everyone at school was playing Gran Turismo 2. Like when the first one came out,
Yeah.
everyone was playing it, but I've never seen a fervor for a game like Gran Turismo 2. It did everything the first one did, added more, and just did everything better. It just is a great, great, great racing game. Probably the best racing game
Yeah.
on the system. By far. It is a massive game and it looked gorgeous. It played really well. And the soundtrack was pretty good too for it. So my first pick is Gran Turismo 2.
That's a cracking pick.
It's a very good start. Very, very good pick.
3 very, very, very strong games. We'll do a wee recap here, gentlemen. So round 1, Cardinal, you picked Final Fantasy 7. Tom, you picked Metal Gear Solid 1. And I have picked Gran Turismo 2. This brings us on to round 2, which means it is my pick first. And I'm
I'm
going
afraid
to...
now because he's going to pick something. He's going to pick something that'll annoy me now. This is it.
I doubt it. This is a game probably everyone knows I'm going to pick. All right, it's not going to surprise anybody, but it is one of the best games on the system. And I am going to go with Resident Evil 2. 2. In my heart, I wanted to go with Dino Crisis here, but as good as Dino Crisis is, and it is on my list, Resident Evil 2 was, I don't think I have ever played a game that improved all its precursor to the extent Resident
Yeah.
Evil 2 did. It again, like Gran Turismo, it did everything the first one did, added to it, made it bigger, made it better. But it also revolutionized a lot of stuff. Like you had player zapping, it was called. So player zapping is there were certain items that you could pick in your first playthrough. So you'd open up a gun locker, you could take ammo, you could take a gun. And whatever you leave behind is the only thing for your second character. So there is a wee bit of tactics and stuff like that. The storyline was brilliant. There is Claire A, Claire B, Leon A, Leon B, and you can play them in any order, and it will change the end, and it will change story beats. It was just an utterly, utterly, utterly fantastic game.
Yeah.
One of the best horror games ever made, and I'm saying that in 2024. It is unbelievable. An unbelievable game. Resident Evil 2 is my second pick. And that brings us back to Tomahawk's second pick.
Okay, now. This is going to be it's a bit of a nostalgia-ish pick for me because I never so much as cracked the story on this one, but I spent most of my time wandering the mansion and the outside areas of this. I've gone for Tomb Raider 2 as my second pick.
That was one of mine.
Oh dear.
See,
and this is one of those ones that playing this, I had the date of its release. It's gone from me there now, but obviously I'm too wee and too young to figure out Tomb Raider controls back in the day. So I think most of my time was spent wandering the house, locking the butler into the freezer, and learning the kind of parkoury elements to just then swan dive off the top of the diving board. But the game was stunning. The game was played great, looked great. If I remember correctly, the first level was Venice? Or you're in the boats?
No, the first level was the Great
Okay.
Wall of China.
Where am I thinking of then?
Venice is the second level, I think. So
okay, then at one point I definitely did the first level then.
Tomb Raider 2 kicks off with Lara getting dropped off by a helicopter to the Great Wall of China because that is where the artifact is. If memory serves me correct, it was the dagger, the dragon dagger.
The dragon dagger,
and
yes.
You get there, someone has beat you to it, or that's what you're told, and then thus starts the Great Adventure. Second level's Venice. But what a level
Oh,
Venice
okay.
is.
I remember the level in Venice because I just remember being stuck in the boat and couldn't ever figure out the route you're supposed to take. But then that's just young, naive Tomahawk there. So most of my time playing Tomb Raider 2 was basically just, as I say, wandering the grounds and learning all the backflips and the diving motions and just having an old blast at that. My uncle used to always bring his PlayStation 1 to like family gatherings when he knew that we would be the youngest ones there by some age gap. So we would always just be thrown into the room with the PlayStation 1 plugged in. So
Unreal. Unreal. What a game. It was.
yeah.
It is on my list at number 3. So it is. But Tomb Raider 2,
Outstanding.
what a game. What a game. Absolutely fantastic. Great choice. What
I
a
totally relate to the nostalgia element. Tom, I never completed it, but I did the whole run around the mansion, locking them in, running around the garden, all the
yeah.
rest of it.
Yeah, it's one of those. It's the only Tomb Raider I think I beat on PlayStation 1.
Ooh.
So it
Okay.
is. Yeah, it is a fantastic game. Unreal. Although I did have a guide and I just followed the guide. But it still
Sometimes
counts.
guides were necessary back in the day.
It
I
still counts.
also quite like how the game is actually labeled as Tomb Raider 2 starring Lara Croft.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
that's the full title, and I'm
Ooh.
going like Lara Croft is synonymous with Tomb Raider. You wonder like the need to mention her.
Yeah, I think the first one was called Tomb Raider Introducing Lara Croft.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it was just one of those ones. I think I have watched a documentary on this not that long ago. I think Eidos wanted obviously her to be the focal point of the game, so they wanted her name on the front cover because she was
Oh,
obviously
okay.
in the Lucozade adverts and all back in the day. She was everywhere, everywhere. So they just wanted her name on the
It's just
cover.
crazy marketing and like face to name, that kind of thing.
But yeah, Tomb Raider
Okay.
2, unbelievable game. So far, we have picked nothing but sequels. Let's see if Cardinal is going to break that. Cardinal,
Hey,
what is your pick for round 2?
my third pick is you talked about Tomb Raider. Lara Croft is everywhere, hugely marketed. And I'm going to settle back into the geek aspects here. Let's just bring down this podcast a tone or two. So first of all, Final Fantasy VII, my first ever RPG experience. Metal Gear Solid, my first tactical espionage action experience. I think that was everybody's. Gran Turismo, not quite my first racing game. This, however, was my first ever exposure to a strategy wars kind of game. But the one I'm going to pick is Civilization 2.
Oh,
Okay.
Okay. Now, I rented this at the time from a Extravision down the road and played it all weekend. I did not do homework at all. I
Sorry,
pretended to
you
be
can't get in
asleep.
trouble. There's a statute and it's expired now. You can't get in trouble now.
Yeah, it's in my. It must be in my old record of achievement book somewhere in there because I played that much of it. But it came with actual. So we've been playing Civilization 6 for the season 3 season long challenge. The Civilization 2 box. Do you remember your tech tree that you'd be picking? You go to and it leads to other techs. You had
Yeah.
a print out poster that came inside the box to check the tech
class.
tree. So there, because and you needed to reference that printout to see what you were going to learn next throughout your civilization. But that was just totally different back in the day, and I loved it, and it's had an impact because I keep playing map games ever since.
unbelievable. Unbelievable. I also rented Civilization 2 on the PlayStation when it came out. However,
Unsurprising.
I-
Oh, wait, is this in your roaming rental
no,
lorry?
it was also from Extravision. It was also from Extravision. Um, um, I remember the controls because I had Civilization 2 on PC as well, and I just wanted to see what it was
Gotcha.
like on PlayStation. But I remember the control scheme on the controller being awful, and I remember going, "Why, oh why, can't I use the PlayStation mouse with this?" but you cannot use the PlayStation mouse, and it makes no sense for that at all. If every game you could use the mouse, it's Civ 2, but no. Activision, in their infinite wisdom, decided not to code the mouse support into the game.
Okay.
I knew no other way. I was born with the controller.
So Civilization 2 then is your second pick, Cardinal?
Third,
Second,
second. That's my second pick. Civ
Yes.
2's my second pick.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't.
Ram.
You gotta get it in there early. You gotta get it in early, otherwise
mean-
Luvva or myself who
There
didn't
was-
realize Civ
I thought it
existed
was my
until.
Yeah, I thought it was my third. I'm a bit embarrassed now. I should have picked some.
Should pick something better. Right.
Let's move
So
on.
at the end of round 2, the picks are I have got Gran Turismo 2, Resident Evil 2, Tomahawk has Metal Gear Solid, Tomb Raider 2, and Cardinal has Final Fantasy 7 and Civilization 2. So that brings us on to round 3. And the first pick of round 3 is Cardinal.
Okay, now to claw this back. Give myself some integrity here. PlayStation had a lot of games, loads, tons, and some of the first games I got are on this list, because they were just fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
But one of my very first PlayStation games was this game. And it was my first exposure to football simulators.
Oh,
It was
Ooh.
ISS Pro 98.
what a game. And it's on my
Yes.
list, and now I have to take it off.
Yes,
Thank
you
you
do.
very much.
It was so good, so good. You could play. There was loads of countries, and it was just unbelievable.
It was an unbelievable football game.
Well done, Konami.
Well done. The start of the Pro Evolution Soccer series, really, it just sort of
Yeah,
goes to
absolutely.
it. But yeah, what a game it was. I just remember it being like really, really smooth control wise.
Yeah,
Like the players' animations would just flow into one another. It was just miles ahead of where FIFA was at that in the same sort of time frame. Miles ahead of it, and absolutely superb. The only downside to it was obviously the lack of license.
the license.
Yeah, David Brickham.
That's the best part. the David Brickham.
But there was no, in the PlayStation versions anyway, as far as I remember, there was no option to edit the players' names. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think you could change the player names, if my memory serves me right. I think that was a Pro Evo thing. When Pro Evo came out, I think it was in 99.
Yeah, later on time, I think.
It was the first one. I don't think in ISS you could change the player names, but you knew who you all were, like Mikkel Oren. I mean, it doesn't take rocket science to work out who it's meant to be, like, but yes, Pro Evo or ISS. Sorry, what a game! It was on my list, and it was my sports game. Darn
Sports
you,
game.
Cardinal.
Curses.
Darn you.
Curses.
So pick 2 then in round 3 goes to Tomahawk.
I am going to go a bit left field on this one. Now, I'm going to go with a game that I have not played, but I have go with a game that I have watched friends, brothers play. It is the Die Hard trilogy.
Oh, what a game!
Whoa.
What a game!
And more specifically, because I had to Google the actual specifics of it, then it's Die Hard 2, Die Harder, the on-rail shooter mode. I suppose that was the entire game, wasn't it? It was the light gun, the G-Con.
Yeah. There's firing in the terminal.
Yes. This is such a fleeting moment in my life, and I literally, it all sort of came flooding back to me as soon as we knew the draft was coming, and I was just like I've played Time Crisis 2 on the PlayStation 2, and that is a topic for another day, but I remember that existed on the PlayStation 1 in the form of Die Hard. I was just like, this is so different and interesting, and I think this is an option. You could do it with the G-Con or just with the controller. Yeah, just And who doesn't like Die Hard, to be honest?
Oh, Die Hard trilogy was so good because like obviously Die Hard was like this isometric 3D shooter where you had to rescue
Yeah.
hostages, and then the second one, as you say, was the light gun, and then the third, Die Hard with a Vengeance, was
Was it a
like
drive-in
you had to
game,
drive
basically?
around and blow up the bombs around the city. It was just so good. It was absolutely brutally difficult though. The second one, I'm the same school of thought as you. I think Die Harder was the best game in the three, because it was Virtua Cop and all but name, really, wasn't it? I mean, I'm
Yeah, it was
surprised
just as I
Sega
was.
never sued.
Well, this is it. I was just sort of looking at everything, going and make sure I had all my ducks in a row for this one because I didn't want to embarrass myself on the internet. Third person shooter, as you say, just go and rescue hostages and all that kind of jazz at Nakatomi Plaza. And then this one, Die Harder, presented as an on rail shooter. You had to stop terrorists at the airport. And I thought, who doesn't like? I think the mid to late 90s was very much the arcade shooter era,
Mhm.
and why not piggyback on it? And we do love a good movie tie-in on High Scores, High Stakes. It's not talked about enough, but we love one.
We do.
Absolutely.
We do.
And it's just one of those moments where you sit and you're at a friend's house and your friend's brother is playing the PlayStation, and everyone, that's how you spent your day, just watching other people do stuff. And I think I was just so engrossed by it. And yet my parents would never buy me a PlayStation 1.
I'm
Sad Tomahawk.
absolutely devastated by that. It wasn't on my list, but I'm devastated myself for forgetting it because it was a game we rented all the time, and it was a game we eventually owned as well, and we played the
Okay.
life clean out of it because we had icons, the gun, and everything. What a game it was! Like I am raging at myself for forgetting about Die Hard trilogy. The sound bites were so good. Oh dear, oh
It
dear.
was one I was thinking, put it to the tail end. It was also tempting to be my number one pick, but
It's
there's
not good enough.
just it's not good enough to be number one pick, but it's not obscure enough to be number 5 pick. I think it was nice, handy in the middle. Yeah, just to hit that sweet spot really of nostalgia and explosions and guns.
Yeah, it's a good pick. It is a very good pick. Totally forgot about that. Can't believe I forgot about that. I mean, what?
I
But
didn't know it
yes,
existed.
what?
I'd never
Oh,
seen
it's
Die
unreal.
Hard, and I wasn't allowed to because of its violence. So I didn't know there was a Die Hard game outside of the arcade. Maybe no, that was
Time
We meant
Crisis.
Time Crisis, yeah.
Time
Time
Crisis.
Crisis.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is an education.
Die Hard's a funny one because obviously I'm in the 80s. Well, I was born in the 80s, grew up in the 90s, but it was that sort of weird era where I have an older brother. He's 6 years older than me, and he was obviously allowed to watch all these films and stuff, but he would let me watch them with him. So Die Hard was a movie I watched far too young. RoboCop is a movie I watched far too young. Terminator is a movie I watched far too young. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. But what a game! I can't believe I forgot Die Hard trilogy ever existed. I know what I'm doing this weekend. So that brings me on to my third pick. My third pick is a game I can't believe is still here.
Ooh.
It is the highest rated game in the system.
Oh
You all know
yes,
what it
okay.
I
is.
can't remember. We did an episode on this. I don't
Yeah,
need
we
a
did.
history lesson.
You know what it is. You know it's a
I don't
classic.
remember.
You know it's one of the best games ever made. It is Tony Hawk's Pro
Tony
Skater
Hawk's.
2.
Hmm.
A 98 on
X that off my
Metacritic,
list.
should I say. Tony Hawk Pro Skater. What a game. And I'm repeating myself here with my first 2 picks. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 did everything Tony Hawk did. Made it bigger, made it better, and even added a couple of new features. So it was, but what a game. What a game. The manuals and reverts were just game changing, and the combos you could do. There's so many levels in this game that are iconic as well. The big one is Skull. Everyone knows what Skull is. Everyone knows the leg to Skull. Everyone could probably tell you where the skate letters are in that level. And do we have to talk about the soundtrack for Tony Hawk 2? Because it is utterly incredible. It is incredible.
I remember when we were doing the challenge at the start of season 3, I was tweeting asking people about favorite soundtrack, and they were all just everyone had a song that they had.
Oh yeah, no, everyone has like that one that they're just locked in to Tony Hawk 2.
Yeah, it's an absolutely superb game. I remember my enduring memory of Tony Hawk 2 is I know Tony Hawk 1 did it, but Tony Hawk 1 did it in very short bursts. But throughout the levels, there was like big screens peppered, and it would either play the music video of the song that was being played, or it would show your skater in real time in like replay mode.
Oh, okay.
It's such a good game. Just never saw through on another level in the early PlayStation 1 days. The game is brilliant, and it is, as I said, it's the highest rated game on the PlayStation, and I can't believe it was still here, and I'm just taking it because I want it,
Claim it.
and I'm
Claim
claiming
That's
it.
it. It's there. It's there for the taking. Go for it.
Yep. So that is round 3 done. So a recap of the picks. I've got Gran Turismo 2, Resident Evil 2, Tony Hawk's 2. Tom has Metal Gear Solid, Tomb Raider 2, Die Hard Trilogy, and Cardinal has Final Fantasy 7, Civilization 2, and ISS. Which brings us on to round 4. And I get first pick. And this is where things get tricky because my list is heaving with great games. I've pretty much got the games I wanted. So now I'm going to start picking from the heart, I think, rather than from the head. So my fourth pick, I don't know. I don't have an RPG. So what I'm going to do is I am going to take Final Fantasy Tactics.
Okay.
So
Have you played it?
Yeah. I owned it on the PlayStation, owned it on the Game Boy Advance. It's an absolutely superb game. So it is. For those who don't know, it is a
Nerd.
hex-based strategy RPG with an epic storyline and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of characters. You can make them into teams of 3 and then just make your way slowly through levels. It is also brutally hard. The PlayStation 1 version isn't as good as the Game Boy Advance version because the Game Boy Advance version rebalanced a lot of stuff. But just everything about Final Fantasy Tactics. I mean, let's be honest here, right? Seeing the PlayStation 1 era, has there ever been a developer put out as many games as high quality as what Square did on the PlayStation 1? I mean, you could just list games seemingly forever with them.
Yeah.
Every
Absolutely.
game they brought out just landed hard, and they were mostly all fantastic.
Yeah. I remember always getting the PlayStation magazine back then, and the reviews were minimum 9 out of 10.
For every single one.
It's just okay.
Yeah.
I guess I'll get this one.
Final Fantasy Tactics is a great game. So it is. It really, truly is.
Man, I've never played it.
It's brilliant. You're missing out. It exists on pretty much everything nowadays. I'm pretty sure it's on Steam. The soundtrack for it. Oh my days! Just the whole thing.
Get a good emulator for it as well. Mm-hmm. I know that iOS are starting to kind of lean into that sort of thing now. So
yeah. So I am taking Final Fantasy Tactics because I think I need a role-playing game because we're talking about the PlayStation 1, and it is probably one of the contenders for the greatest RPG console ever made. It's right up there. If not top. So Tomahawk, what's your fourth pick, mate?
I'm going to go with another game that is kind of synonymous to high scores, high stakes. I do hope, should we get that far, that we do it for episode 100, and it's going to be Crash Warped.
Okay.
Oof.
So Crash Warped, I've definitely said this in our pilot episode. This is the first Crash game that I think I played at any great length. It was the preloaded disc that lived in the PlayStation in my dentist's waiting room.
Yep.
No.
So what I got really good at is the Great Wall of China.
Oh,
level
on the tiger.
on the Tiger,
Yeah.
yes. And the motorcycle race levels. I got pretty proficient in those
Mhm.
infrequent visits to the dentist in my younger years.
Oh, they are.
It was just one of those games. Like, it was always there. You'd always, the best thing about going to the dentist was praying that nobody was bringing their kids or was waiting to play Crash Bandicoot, basically.
Love it. Love.
And I genuinely hope that we get to do another speed run when we hit the next big landmark episode. And Crash 3 seems to be the obvious choice.
Yeah.
It was a great game. I loved it. It was my gateway, and I sort of worked backwards at that point for Crash Bandicoot. Not really much else to say on it, I suppose. It was a bloody good game, bloody difficult at times as well in some of the other later levels.
Yes. I mean, all the Crash Bandicoots were
All
hard.
crashes are difficult, exactly, yes.
But it was the game. It sort of almost broke Naughty Dog. Naughty Dog were like, I don't want to make another one of these because Crash Bandicoot was released, and then 10 months later, Crash 2 came out, and then 10 months after that, Crash 3 came out. So you're talking 3 games in under 3 years.
Yeah, it just doesn't happen anymore.
The turnaround
No.
time on that is great. It couldn't happen anymore. It's just, it shouldn't have happened back then either. But like, I know Naughty Dog were like, we are done with Crash Bandicoot. And Sony were like, are you though?
Are you though?
Are
Yeah.
you? I mean, you might be done, but we're not. And we own you, so you're not.
You'll make
And
more,
another
you'll
one.
bloody like it.
And I think they agreed to one more game, but they were like, it's not a platformer.
Yeah.
But yeah. So Cardinal, what is your 4th round pick?
Okay. I'm a bit torn. I think I will go with one of my safe lists. So my 4th pick, I've got my list split into 2. One's wild cards, one's half nostalgia. This one comes from the nostalgia rating. I'm still torn 50-50. I am between 2. But I'm going to. Okay, no, I've chosen Civ. So I will go with what I consider a party game.
Mm-hmm.
Played locally with friends, and that was Worms.
Ah, what a
Oh,
shit.
what
Just-
a pick.
Just
It's on my
Worms.
list.
Straight up. No
So good.
different editions, just the original. And what you could do was you could name your worms, set up your own team,
Yeah.
and it had a league table in the game. And if say your friend or whatever had a team, you could play the different AIs or yourselves, and you all go up the league table together. It was so simple, but there's so many weapons and stuff. It was just so easy to play and brilliant.
It's on my list because Worms, again, for me,
Kamikaze!
massive nostalgia hit. Like,
Yeah.
massive nostalgia hit. I remember,
Yep.
my enduring memory of Worms was, it must have been Euro 96 was on.
Okay.
And in between playing football, watching Euro 96, me and Sherry and my dad were all playing Worms, and we all had picked our team for the Euros. So we had renamed our Worms teams into the country that we wanted to win the Euros and picked 4 of their players. But Worms is one of those games, like, let's be honest here, there's been, what, 20 or 25 sort of
Countless versions.
versions of it, but it's never fundamentally really changed.
The format's exactly the same.
Yeah, and that just goes to if it is not, this is a great game, then I don't know what else suggests a great game. Worms is a great game. It's on my list. In fact, I have 2 Worms games on my list:
Oh.
Worms and Worms Armageddon, because they're both absolutely outstanding. The only thing about, I would probably have picked Armageddon because it just looks better. The Worms had a bit more personality. and stuff.
Undoubtedly.
But what a shite, mate. What a shite. Worms. Unbelievable. these lists are actually pretty good and very,
I'm
very,
liking them.
really, really different. So
Yeah.
at the end of our 4th round picks, my lineup is Gran Turismo 2, Resident Evil 2, Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2, Final Fantasy Tactics. Tomahawk, you have Metal Gear Solid, Tomb Raider 2, Die Hard Trilogy, Crash Bandicoot 3 Warped. And Cardinal has Final Fantasy 7, Civilization 2, ISS Football, and Worms. Which means we are down to our last pick. And I think what we could do here, right, is at the end of picking 5, if you want to substitute one of your games out, I'll give you the option. But if you choose to substitute it out, then that game is still out of the pool, if that makes sense. All right.
So once it's out, nobody else can swipe it.
Yeah.
Then.
Yep. The game is gone.
Okay.
All right. So round 5, pick 1. This is your last pick, Cardinal. So let's make it a good one. Go for it, mate.
Okay. My final pick. No, I haven't picked a racing game because essentially my racing game's been picked.
Good ones too.
There's a number of other good ones, and I could call them out maybe at the end as honorable mentions. But one I'm going to pick another. It is difficult because I'm going to pick another strategy game.
Ooh, I know what you're going for, and it's on my list. It's going to be my pick.
This was a huge hit. I remember it got like 9 out of 10 review at the time, and it was the first of a series. Not the first of its type. It's Command and Conquer Red Alert.
I knew it.
And
I shouldn't be surprised, but there we are.
I thought it was my pick.
This was a top-down resource farming and then military strategy, but it was all real time and it was immense. You were chucking out tanks and AI was sending in troops to blow up your base, and you had to build up this base as quick as possible. And there's some iconic. There's Tanya, this random character. The cutscenes where actors pretending to be Stalin or Hitler. The game opens up with Einstein creating a time machine and sending somebody back to kill Hitler.
Yeah.
Fair. What an introduction.
I mean,
right?
What a game. What a game. That was my pick, Cardinal. I'm raging. Red Alert is unreal. It is unreal. 2 discs as well. One disc
that's depending on what side.
GDI and Nod. Yeah. Brilliant. What a game. And the soundtrack as well. If memory serves me right, the soundtrack for that game was incredible. It's like really heavy guitar.
It was. It was great. Big quotes, big guitar, and I can listen to it in my head right now. It's there.
Yeah. But, what a game. Devastated. That's good. That's gone. All right. It changes my...
That was the first game I wanted to purchase myself, by the way, on PlayStation. So you get the PlayStation, you get a few games with it. That was the first game I went out and purchased by itself. But anyway.
Unbelievable. Can we just throw out an honorable mention to the PlayStation 1 double disc dual covers that were like a hardback novel thickness?
Oh, yeah.
And always broke no matter how carefully you opened them. I just want to throw that out. What a design for a cover that was. Although better than the American cover, in fairness, because the American games came in like CDs, like little CD.
Little thin boys.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
No girth in it.
No girth and no big.
I thought I had my copy of Metal Gear Solid 1. Actually, it's the big thick 2-inch book essentially, but as you say, the front of it has just got this massive crack in it.
Yeah, and
that can't be avoided apparently.
For some reason, Tomb Raider 1 also came in one of those covers, despite the fact it was only 1 disc. No idea why.
Well, just one of life's mysteries, yeah.
Yeah, I'm presuming there's some production issue or something like that. But Tomahawk, what is your last pick?
I have actually been like fretting over my list here because the 5th pick I've gone with is I've only really picking it because it was available in the PlayStation Store, and I've just fallen in love with it because of like all the additional media that's come with it. Like they've had a Netflix series. They've had several Netflix series based on it as well. It
Hmm.
is Castlevania Symphony of the Night,
Ooh, it's on my list too.
and I just think for a game to do what it was doing in 1997, shouldn't really be doing that. Like it was such a like it's only probably more recency bias, and I'm looking back and thinking how this game has sort of progressed
Hmm.
for its time. Bloody, it looks great still.
Yeah.
It's that idea, that Metroidvania thing, just to appear and go, well, look, here's bits that you can't explore until you get better and come back and do this. It's pretty like intuitive gameplay for the late 90s, really.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny you should say how was it doing things that it was doing at the time. I remember at the time because Konami were making Symphony of the Night, they're making Castlevania 64 at the same time,
Hmm.
and they announced them at the same time as well. If memory serves me right, Castlevania 64 ended up being delayed for donkeys afterwards, and this came out first. But I remember all like the multi-platform magazines going, "Look at the state of this. This is how Castlevania should look." As in, look at the state of Symphony of the Night, and Castlevania should look like Castlevania 64, which is an awful game. When
Okay.
Symphony of the Night came out, it cleaned house on reviews. I think official PlayStation Magazine give it 10 out of 10. It's just, I mean, it's been bettered. It is for Metroidvanias. If it's not your first one, it's quite hard a game to go back into because it's rough. It's rough around the edges. It really is.
Yeah.
But what a game!
But it's like
What
it's a
a
nexus point for Metroidvania, like modern day Metroidvanias as well.
it is the grandfather of the entire genre. Like it really is. It's like it's an outstanding game. My only issue with it is there's like half of the game is hidden from you. You can complete Symphony of the Night and never see the upside down castle. There are
Yeah.
hints,
Uh,
but it's hidden away from you. The crit you can go to the end, kill the final boss, credits roll, and you'll never know it existed. You'll never know it existed.
that's it. That's the joy of a Metroidvania. Is like the you get out what you put into it, and there's a lot to be said that it may sort of try to guide you in that direction, but
Oh, it doesn't.
you're not.
Oh, it
But
doesn't.
yeah, like it can try to guide you then, but I think 90% of the fun is the exploration.
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
in those games as well, those types of games is brilliant. Like
yeah.
even if you fast forward to like Hollow Knight, it doesn't exactly give you the most linear path. You just kind of find yourself going
Mhm. Yep.
anywhere and everywhere, really.
It's one of the
So
big sort of advancements in the genre was signposting players to
mhm.
content. Please go here and see this. Like I can't remember the exact pathway for it. You need to pick up three things. So there's a stopwatch, there's a book, and there's a third item. I can't remember what it was. Maybe a pendant or a necklace. You go to the room that has the clock, and then you wait for it to hit midnight, and then you get transported. It's just like, what is this
Yeah,
madness? How are you meant to figure this out with very little clues? Go to the place, I think, is the only clue. Go to the place at the time shown on face. It's something like that. And
I just remember
pocket
even
watch.
like playing it there quite recently, and it starts off and you're Richter, and you go in and you sort of go straight to Dracula, and it's just that line. I've just got it here so I could quote it exactly. What is a man? A miserable little pile of secrets. It's like just on a text scroll, but great wee, great wee snippets of dialogue, and the next thing you know, you're Alucard and you meet Death at Dracula's castle door, and he's just like, "What are you doing here?" He's like, "Oh, I'm come to kill Dracula." It's just like, right, well, I'll see you soon because you're gonna die.
Yeah, yeah.
And then he just,
It's such a great game. It's such a great game. It wasn't my list. Once Cardinal took Command and Conquer, I moved that up the list. Now it's gone. So now for my fifth pick, it gives me a bit of a predicament because the rest of the games, I think any one of these games should make it onto one of our lists. So I'll read them out to you. So I have Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver, which is a phenomenal game.
Sure.
Point Blank, Future
Sure.
Cop, LAPD, Time Crisis, Silent Hill, Wipeout 3, Street Fighter Alpha 3, or Tekken 3. And I don't know which one to pick. I really don't know which one to pick.
Spin that
Um,
wheel.
which one's my favorite of those? I suppose.
Yeah.
It's probably Silent Hill, but I have Resident Evil 2, so no. I'm going to go. I'm going to go Street Fighter Alpha 3.
Ooh.
So
Wow.
Street Fighter Alpha 3 is not only one of the best Street Fighters ever made, it's one of the best fighting games ever made as well. And the PlayStation conversion of it is simply incredible. It is an incredible conversion. It's not arcade perfect. There was a lot of animations and stuff removed to fit the disc, blah, blah, blah. But the
Okay.
gameplay in Street Fighter Alpha 3 is phenomenal. And the character art, for my opinion, is second only to Street Fighter 3. The character art is phenomenal. As the Alpha series is, everyone was younger. It was before Street Fighter 2, and they give all the characters like an anime makeover, but it is.
I was literally about to ask, what's the difference? And then, yeah, I've just looked at the character art here. It's full blown anime.
It's full blown anime. Obviously they made a whole heap of differences to the fighting system and stuff. Your super bar, you got a choice between different supers and stuff like this in the character select screen. It was slower gameplay than Street Fighter 2 Turbo, more methodical, far more tactical. Your defensive, much more defensive game. It obviously rewarded aggression, but it gives the players a lot more sort of defensive options. It was just much more balanced version of Street Fighter 2. Street Fighter Alpha 3 was incredible. Incredible. Some will say Tekken 3 is the best fighting game on PlayStation. It's hard to argue against it for content, mechanics, etc., etc. But as a pure fighter, Street Fighter Alpha 3 for me.
Big
So
call.
That is my fifth pick. That's my fifth pick. So, at the end of the draft, that is it. The draft is done. It is dusted. My picks were GT 2, Resident Evil 2, Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2, Final Fantasy Tactics, Street Fighter Alpha 3. Tom's, yours was Metal Gear Solid, Tomb Raider 2, Die Hard Trilogy, Crash 3, Symphony of the Night. And then Cardinal, yours was Final Fantasy 7, Civ 2, ISS, Worms, and Command & Conquer Red Alert. So the question is there any game, Cardinal, that you wish to substitute out of your list? If so, which one is it, and what do you want to replace it with?
Do you know, I could just replace them with Final Fantasy 8, Final Fantasy 9, in terms of time I've spent in games.
Final Fantasy Anthology.
If I had to replace one, I would maybe take out Civilization 2
Mm-hmm.
and replace it with the original GTA, Grand Theft Auto. And yeah, I like Civilization 2, but
You don't have to sub out anything if you don't want
the
to.
sandbox element of GTA was crazy and new, and that demo disc that give you 10 minutes of free play. I love the handling of the cars too. No, I'm keeping Civ 2.
Yeah, I would keep Civ 2,
yeah.
GTA 1 fun, but not very good. In my opinion, I don't think it was a very good game.
It was just very different.
I did love the demo disc. I spent a lot of time running up to the monorail and then run onto the tracks and then electrocuting, and just leaves like a wee skeleton. What a time to be alive. I can't remember what that demo was with. So I vaguely remember playing that demo around about the same time Resident Evil 2 came out. So take that for what it's worth. Tomahawk, you happy enough for your list, or do you want to sub one out?
No, I'm very much happy. I think everything has its place, everything has its right order, and everything has a lovely little story with it for me, I think, anyway. Yeah. So I'm happy enough with these picks. I don't think they're getting dislodged today.
Yeah, I am happy enough with my list. If I was going to sub one out, it would be Final Fantasy Tactics, and I would sub it for Point Blank. but I'm not going to. Although there's an argument to be made about it. But I'm not going to.
Oh, blurred out.
Vagrant story.
It was Grand Theft Auto demo came with Pandemonium 2.
Pandemonium 2. What a game
Frogger.
Pandemonium is. What a
And
game.
Frogger.
Unreal. So that is it then. That is the end of the PlayStation draft. Sorry to all the games that didn't make it.
All 800 or so.
It's 8,000, I think, wasn't it?
I
Something
have
ridiculous.
yeah.
I think that's about right, yes.
Something utterly ridiculous. So yes, so the final draft then, me, Gran Turismo 2, Resident Evil 2, Tony Hawk's 2, Final Fantasy Tactics, Street Fighter Alpha 3, Tomahawk is Metal Gear Solid, Tomb Raider 2, Die Hard Trilogy, Crash 3, Castlevania Symphony of the Night, and Cardinals Final Fantasy 7, Civilization 2, ISS, Worms,
I knew.
Command & Conquer, Red Alert. There are so many games that I could spend so much time talking about. PlayStation 1 was like my console. I felt like I was the right age when that came out. It's like my generation's console, really. But I think we could do this in a retrospective episode about the PlayStation 1 and talk about all the games we want. The draft is done, and that brings us to the end of the draft. So what happens next? You'll find out in the wrap-up section coming up. So that is that. The PlayStation draft has been concluded. Are we happy with our list, gentlemen? I mean, it's a silly question because none of you substituted any of the games out. So clearly you're happy enough, yeah?
Very happy.
Yeah. I mean, I would have gone with a second list of Formula 197, GTA, Final Fantasy 8, G Police, and Parappa the Rapper, but we can't fit them all in.
What a great list. If I was making a second list, mine would be Legacy of Kain, Soul Reaver, Anna Kournikovas Smash Court Tennis, Point Blank, Future Cup LAPD, Tekken 3.
Anna Kournikovas Smash Court
Oh, yeah.
Tennis.
What a game.
Super.
I'm not old enough to have a second list, so, you know.
There's so many games. Like, there's Crash Bandicoot, there's the other Final Fantasies, Driver, Speed Freaks, Crash Team Racing, Doom, Quake 2. The list goes on and on and on and on. It is a great console. And that's why it was ranked second in my ranking of PlayStations from 1 to 5. But yes, what happens now? What we are going to do with these lists is we are going to throw them up on social media, and we'll throw them into the question of the week in the just down below under this video if you're watching on Spotify. And we're going to let you guys cast your votes over who has made the best list of games. And we will announce the winner in next week's side quest. So if you have thoughts or feelings on any of our lists, make sure you get over to social media and make sure you vote for which one of those lists you think deserves to win. And then that's really it for this. These side quests always seem really, really short compared to the main body, don't they? Of the main like competitive podcast.
They're good wee detoxes, though. So you
They
know,
really are.
We do an awful lot of micro gaming, as we say, on the main body. So this is quite nice to actually be able to talk about like
Games.
everything else in a bit more depth as well, really.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's actually nice because this week I've played games that I actually want to play. And not just
Yes.
I have to play that game because
What
I
do you mean
have
you didn't want
beat-
to play 2 weeks of GTA?
I think that's time we're never quite getting back, to be honest. But
I enjoy GTA.
oh no, I did, but like, I don't think I would be doing it in my regular downtime.
No.
Well, sadly, Season 4, season-long challenge is GTA heists non-stop.
Neato.
So yes, that brings us then
Sorry.
to the end of our show. Yay or boo, depending on how much you've been enjoying it. So speaking of social media, if you want to vote, it'd be nice actually to tell you where you can find us on social medias. We are all over the internet. The easiest place to find us anywhere did that is to point your browser at highstakes.com. At the top of the homepage, you'll see a whole load of icons. for different social medias, different websites. Make sure you click them, and it'll bring you straight to our page in those respective sites. As I said at the end of last week, we are continuing our Civilization sort of game to play it out to its conclusion. If you want to catch that, Cardinal has been making these handy dandy 5 to 6 minute recaps of what's happened. So make sure you go over to YouTube as well and watch that. And well, I think with all that being said, no, actually, tell you what, Discord as well. Get yourselves over to Discord and join the conversations that are happening in there. We have a whole load of servers. We also have one for Helldivers too. Jump in there and start playing Helldivers with us or other members of the High Scores, High Stakes community. And with all that being done, the last thing for us to say is, I've been Mr. Luvva Luvva. This has been High Scores, High Stakes. We'll see you again on Monday. Thanks for watching. Love you all. Bye.
Grazie.